The royal brand doesn't run on charm. It runs on bloodlines, sealed by history, verified by records, and never questioned. At least, that's how it used to be. But now, a storm is cracking through Buckingham Palace that has nothing to do with crowns or ceremonies. According to sources tied closely to the royal inner circle, an unprecedented demand has been made behind those palace walls, one that no PR team, no glossy interview, and no carefully framed photo op can spin away. The palace reportedly wants DNA confirmation for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's 2 children, Archie and Lilibet.
We have to keep looking into why. Harry and Meghan lied. Buckingham Palace lied on their behalf. There was a complete cover-up over the birth of Prince Archie.
Not out of curiosity, not for medical reasons, but to settle something far more dangerous. Whether these children are biologically theirs. It's the kind of rumor that used to stay buried in internet forums and speculative podcasts. But this time, it's different. This time, the questions are coming from the inside. The stakes? Everything. From titles and succession to the very foundation of royal legitimacy. And if what's being whispered is even partly true, this could unravel one of the most carefully crafted modern royal narratives we've ever seen. Because this story isn't just about 2 children, it's about a royal machine trying to protect itself from collapse. And the family once seen as breaking traditions is now accused of breaking something else entirely: public trust. For years, the whispers were brushed aside like static, background noise to a glowing love story. Markle, a modern duchess, pregnant and radiant, glowing through photo ops and media tours. But eagle-eyed watchers saw something else, and they never forgot. Started with what seemed like a trick of the camera. Images from reputable agencies, including Getty, showing Meghan's baby bump folding in strange ways. One viral moment showed a bulge seemingly collapsing beneath her dress as she bent forward. At first, people assumed Photoshop, a camera angle, maybe even a wardrobe malfunction. But Getty doesn't doctor images. That moment wasn't fan fiction, it was real. Then came the walking. Meghan, deep into what was said to be her 3rd trimester, was photographed striding confidently in stiletto heels, balancing, posing, even squatting in public without hesitation. Women who had carried children spoke up. Something felt off. The bump appeared to change shape. Some days it looked low and firm, other days high and soft. There were theories, jokes, disbelief, but mostly silence. Because back then, questioning a royal pregnancy was seen as cruel, even taboo. Commentators, especially in the UK press, were cautious. Criticism was labeled insensitive. But the internet doesn't forget, and those strange details never quite faded from memory. They just waited for the right moment to erupt. Now, that moment has come. Whispers are no longer whispers. They're allegations. Suspicion that Meghan may not have carried Archie herself isn't just a fringe theory anymore. It's entered the royal record as a concern serious enough to reportedly prompt an internal review. And what began as speculation has now taken on the weight of institutional panic. Because once the palace starts digging, they don't stop until they hit bedrock. And what they've reportedly found is a growing list of gaps. Missing documents, vanishing medical records, stories that don't quite add up. Suddenly, the odd images, the graceful squats, and the silence don't look like quirks. They look like warning signs that nobody dared to question, until now. Inside Buckingham Palace, silence is more than tradition. It's strategy. For decades, they've survived by keeping their messes off the front page. But this time, the palace didn't just break protocol. They shattered it. According to multiple insider leaks, senior members of the royal household quietly ordered a full review of Meghan's first pregnancy. This wasn't some casual conversation. It was systematic. Investigators were told to dig into photos, videos, timelines, hospital records, even press coverage. And the more they examined, the worse it looked. Key pieces were either missing or never existed at all. There was no confirmed hospital listing under Meghan's legal name for the supposed birth date of Archie. No signed-off documentation from royal physicians, something that has always accompanied royal births in the past. No footage of hospital departures, no official statement from medical staff, just polished PR releases and carefully curated photo ops that now, in hindsight, seem more like stagecraft than celebration. The crown runs on precision. Everything, down to flower arrangements, is recorded, logged, and cross-verified. Yet somehow, the birth of a royal child, the grandchild of the future king, left behind no verifiable medical trail? It's not just a red flag. That's a public crisis in the making. And inside the palace, the mood reportedly shifted from confusion to quiet alarm. One royal aide allegedly described the findings as a hole too deep to patch. Another insider claimed that once the inconsistencies became undeniable, there was no choice but to escalate the matter. That's when talk of DNA testing entered the room. Not as gossip, but as a necessity. Because for the first time in modern memory, the institution found itself staring down a possibility it never prepared for. That a central figure in the line of succession might have been brought into the family under a false public narrative. And if that's true, it doesn't just wound Meghan and Harry, it bruises the monarchy itself. For King Charles, it was never supposed to start like this. After waiting nearly a lifetime to take the throne, he stepped into power with a mission to slim down the monarchy, tighten public spending, and quietly transition the institution into a more modern, accountable era. But buried inside that plan was something even more critical: preserving royal legitimacy. And that's why the alleged DNA request hits like a wrecking ball. Because this isn't about Meghan anymore. It's about the crown's future, and whether two children tied to its bloodline were brought in through means never disclosed, never documented, and never approved by the traditions that define royal succession. The British monarchy doesn't survive on popularity. It survives on structure, lineage, heritage, and traceable roots. Every title, every official duty, every royal role depends on one thing: being born into it. And right now, that foundation is being questioned at its core. If Archie and Lilibet are to inherit titles, duties, or any formal role in royal life, the palace reportedly wants ironclad certainty they are legitimate heirs. Not because they're targeting children, but because history demands it. This institution has outlived revolutions, wars, and abdications. Not survive is public doubt about its bloodline. That's why, according to sources close to royal advisors, succession talks hit a wall the moment Archie's name came up. Behind closed doors, meetings reportedly shifted in tone. What had once been a routine conversation about long-term roles suddenly turned into a deeper legal and historical review. And it was during that process, officials say, that the decision was made. The past had to be re-examined. All of it. The pregnancy photos, the timelines, the birth announcements, the medical documents, or lack thereof. Because in a monarchy, nothing matters more than legacy. And right now, that legacy is sitting on a razor's edge. It didn't take long for the whispers inside the palace to leak into the public arena, and once they did, the fallout hit like a thunderclap. What began as a quiet internal review turned into a media inferno. Royal commentators, once cautious and diplomatic, suddenly changed their tone. Former palace aides who had kept their silence for years stepped forward with veiled remarks and open frustration. The code of quiet dignity had cracked, and the rage behind it came flooding out. Prince William, according to multiple insiders, is said to be furious, not just because of what's being alleged, but because of what this entire debacle has done to the royal family's image. He's worked relentlessly to protect the monarchy's stability and restore trust in a new generation of royals. And now, with his younger brother in the crosshairs of a legitimacy crisis, that work is on the verge of unraveling. Princess Anne, the monarchy's most no-nonsense figure, reportedly called the situation a disgrace. Her reputation for blunt honesty makes that word all the more cutting. And King Charles? Devastated. Sources say he's caught between two worlds: the father who still loves his son, and the monarch who must now protect the institution above all else. Inside the palace, social media erupted into a frenzy. Old clips of Meghan's pregnancy resurfaced, videos slowed down and replayed, frame by frame, showing her bump shifting in unnatural ways. Side-by-side photos circulated, with commentary so detailed it felt more like a forensic report than public speculation. Some called it strange, others used harsher words, but across the board, one question echoed: what really happened? And for the first time, even supporters began to waver. The silence wasn't working anymore. Meghan and Harry had always framed themselves as victims of palace cruelty, media harassment, and outdated tradition. But this wasn't about tradition. This was about truth. And no one, not even their allies, was willing to defend fiction. It's the part too many people get wrong. The issue isn't whether Meghan used a surrogate. That, in itself, is not controversial. Women around the world choose surrogacy for personal, medical, or emotional reasons, and they deserve support, not judgment. The problem is the story that was told. From the moment Meghan and Harry announced the pregnancy, they leaned into a very specific narrative. The modern Duchess, glowing and graceful, breaking barriers, and bringing a new energy to royal life. It wasn't just a baby, it was a rebranding. A way to sell their image to a global audience hungry for royalty with a Hollywood twist. And it worked. Books flew off shelves, Netflix dropped multi-million-dollar deals, public speeches sold out. Meghan wasn't just a royal, she became a symbol. The woman who brought something fresh, diverse, and progressive into the crown. The rebel who took the monarchy into the 21st century. But if the pregnancy at the center of that story didn't actually happen the way it was presented, then the entire foundation of that public persona starts to rot. Because a surrogate isn't a scandal. But building a brand around a false pregnancy? That's something else entirely. That's not just misleading, it's manipulation. It means audiences weren't applauding a journey, they were applauding a performance. And in that gap between personal choice and public lie is where the backlash lives. Meghan and Harry been honest, the public might have respected them even more. A story of vulnerability, medical struggle, or modern family planning could have inspired millions, but instead, they sold a fairy tale. And now, the world is discovering it might have been fiction from the very first chapter. As the palace continues its quiet unraveling of timelines, documents, and medical history, one truth becomes impossible to deny. The problem isn't just what happened, it's what was hidden. And now, the price of that silence is growing by the day. At first, Meghan and Harry's silence was seen as poise, dignified, calm under fire. In the early days, they framed their public withdrawal as an act of self-preservation. After all, hadn't the media always twisted their words? Why engage with a system built to break them? But that strategy has expired. What once felt noble now reads as strategic avoidance, and with each day they remain silent, suspicion thickens. Across headlines, news panels, and social platforms, their refusal to address the DNA rumors has taken on a meaning of its own. Because at this point, silence isn't neutral, it's loud. When powerful people dodge a direct question, the question itself starts to sound like truth. And this question cuts straight to the core. If there's nothing to hide, why not just clear it up? Meghan and Harry, once experts at shaping the narrative, now find themselves in a corner with no script that fits. Interviews won't work. Carefully worded statements won't be enough, because what's being asked isn't emotional, it's procedural. It's not about how they feel, it's about what happened. And the unspoken truth is this: every moment they delay a response makes the public more certain that something is wrong. That's the danger of silence in the face of a legitimacy crisis. It doesn't shield you, it implicates you. Inside the palace, patience is over. The royal institution, stoic, calculated, and rarely reactionary, has reached its breaking point. The whispers are gone, the gloves are off, and the ultimatum is simple. No DNA, no titles, no proof, no place in the royal fold. It's harsh, it's cold, but from the monarchy's perspective, it's necessary. This isn't about hurt feelings or a personal vendetta, it's about legacy. If Archie and Lilibet are to hold titles, inherit duties, or carry any formal royal association, the palace demands unshakable certainty that they belong in the bloodline. This isn't negotiable, because once the crown allows a blurry truth to stand, it sets a precedent it can't take back. The monarchy may bend to public opinion, but it does not bend to ambiguity. According to insider reports, palace advisors have already drafted internal protocols for what happens if Harry and Meghan refuse to comply. These include freezing the children's HRH status, removing them from formal royal correspondence, and excluding them from future ceremonial roles. In essence, an erasure, not of affection, but of position. And that's not just a blow to Harry and Meghan's personal lives, that's the full rejection of their public identity. The identity they built book deals and streaming contracts around, the brand they sold to the world. Without the royal connection, that brand dissolves. The crown is signaling that this isn't just a family drama, it's an institutional standoff. And this time the institution isn't backing down. Now everything turns on one decision. If Meghan and Harry agree to the DNA testing, they might regain some ground, depending on what the results say. If the test confirms Harry as the biological father and offers evidence of parenthood on both sides, it could calm the chaos. It wouldn't erase the deception, but it could preserve the children's place in the royal lineage. A technical win that buys them time to repair public trust. But if the results suggest otherwise, if even a shred of doubt is confirmed on paper, then this story doesn't just spiral, it detonates. Because at that point, we're not just talking about a disputed pregnancy. We're talking about a royal identity crisis that touches succession, constitutional integrity, and the monarchy's global standing. We're talking about questions Parliament may have to address, titles that could be revoked, and public fallout that no documentary or podcast can clean up. And if Meghan and Harry refuse to take the test entirely, then the silence becomes their legacy. The palace will act, the titles will vanish, the roles will disappear, the doors will close, for good. That's the moment we're in now. Not a family squabble, but a chessboard with one final move left. A decision that will shape how history remembers this couple, not as the victims of royal coldness, but potentially as the architects of their own unraveling. And all of it, every speech, every spotlight, every deal, now hangs on one thing: a swab, a test, and a truth that can no longer be hidden behind palace gates. So here we are, caught in a royal standoff where truth, image, and legacy collide. Meghan and Harry once held the world's sympathy as they stepped away from the crown. Now, their silence is shaping a different story. one the palace refuses to let go unanswered. This isn't just about family anymore. It's about what happens when personal branding meets centuries-old power, when privacy clashes with protocol, and when the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, refuses to stay buried. One test could change everything. One refusal could seal the fate of an entire generation's place in royal history. The question now isn't just what's true. It's how far everyone is willing to go to either prove it or protect it. Do you think the palace is crossing a line? Or is this the natural price of protecting the monarchy? Drop your thoughts below. We're watching history bend in real time, and your voice belongs in the conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next chapter in the fallout no one saw coming. Because when the palace speaks, the world listens. And this story, it's far from over.